Giặc miền Bắc vô đây, bàn tay như màu hồng bào. Giặc miền Bắc vô đây, bàn tay như màu hồng bào.
The North, communist North, with the help of the communist Russia and China, invaded us in April 1975, and they promised before they came, they promised like paradise for the peasants, for the people. They promised equality for people, but it's all the opposite. When the communists came, they killed people. Anybody who owned like a small plot of land would be killed, would be executed in public. They taught the children to denounce, to expose their parents for execution, and they replaced religions, all of the religions, be it Catholicism, Protestant, Buddhism, all of the other religions with communist idols. You mean like Mao Zedong, Lenin, Stalin, and they impoverished people by the tactics of changing the monies. They just printed new bills, and in 48 hours, people were only allowed, say, like $200 per family. So suddenly, they robbed all of your money, your assets. The lucky people who had some kind of tangible asset, like gold or something like that, could survive for a little time. I have my friend here who would tell you the atrocities of the communists, but I like to go over their tactics so that you would watch out, because communism is spreading even though we don't know about it. And I brought this book by Stephanie Block, and it says Organizing the Culture of Death. And this is the Alinsky's way of invading, of infiltrating in every aspect of your life, from the infrastructure up. So I like you to be aware of words like redistribution of income, and do not be duped by the euphemism. They have ways of turning the meanings around. For example, like in Russia, when the people wanted to seek freedom, they call them defector. They defect, to make you think of like some manufacturer products with defects. The good people with intelligence who seek freedom, who want to have their own mind, the communists call them defects. So watch out for those. The next tactic that the communists do for all of the other countries once they invade the free countries, they apply censorship on the media. Be it, radio, TV, newspaper. And then they started wiping all history out of the people. They started with the young children. So watch out for elementary school. They'll go in there and they'll take history, the history book out of the school, and replace that with social sciences. So eventually, you have no more background. You have no more of the traditions to lean back on, and people start to lose their moral values and things like that. I give you an example. In 1975 in Cambodia, I don't want to say about Vietnam, because of retribution. Under the Pol Pot regime, those children, those young children who sent their parents to be executed, now they became parents. They have no sense of loyalty, no sense of love. So if they need money, their children could be 4, 5, 6 years old, they would sell their children. And they had no conception of what would become of those children. Will they be sent for slavery, for sex slavery? So I like you to not be complacent and watch out. If there's anything that is similar to that, be aware and watch the changes like a hawk, because otherwise you will be caught unexpected like us. And they always aim, the communists, they aim at creating a big gap, big jealousy between the classes. They would make the have-not, like they call them the have-not, be very jealous of the have. They say, oh, you're so rich. I need to get you money. I need to steal your money. Watch out for that. I think my friend, I have a few friends here who were sent to the communist concentration with a euphemism again. The communists call those re-education camps, but actually they were like the gulags of Siberia. So I like to call to my friend Mr. Thảo, who used to be a newscaster with the National Radio Television in Vietnam, and he would be the first witness about communist atrocities.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It is sure it's not easy to wrap what I'm going to share with you tonight in 3 minutes and 50 seconds allowance. That's my friend Trudy Brown told me. We were classmates 1969 in a university, and we met together again just last year.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. But I tried, my friend, all my best. And please allow me to read you what I prepared in 700 words. First, I would like to remind you that we have a Victims of Communism Memorial right here in Washington, D.C., our national capital, within views of the U.S. Capitol. The memorial was dedicated by President George W. Bush on June 12, 2007. It is dedicated to more than 100 million victims of communism. This figure is 4 times the number of victims killed by the Nazis in the World War II. Victims of communism include those who were killed, starved, massacred in Russia, Ukraine, China, Cambodia, East Germany, Poland, Ethiopia, and in the Vietnam War. They could be Vietnamese or Cuban who drowned in the ocean while on the way to seek freedom. Currently, 4 communist countries remain around the world. They are Cuba, China, Vietnam, and North Korea. To learn more about the monstrous crimes of communism, I would like to invite you to read the Black Book of Communism, which means crimes, terrors, and repression by Stéphane Courtois, in which you can find thousands upon thousands acts of terrorism, repression, and killings. Millions of copies of this book were sold in a short period of time in 1997. Let us go back to the case of our country, Vietnam. South Vietnam was annexed not by the people uprising, but by communist tanks and guns on April 30, 1975, that we call the Black April. That date is considered to be an unprecedented, life-changing event throughout Vietnam 4,000 years of history. Only days after the occupation by the communists, the middle-class families in South Vietnam were devastated. They were forced to surrender all their cash to the new government as my friend Tony just explained to you. Each family received back 2,000 dong, the new type of currency. The rest were confiscated by the new government. South Vietnamese who served in the military or were civil servants or intellectuals were deported to various concentration camps to perform hard labor tasks to produce their own food under the supervision of pro-communist guards. Hundreds of thousands of people were detained in thousands of these so-called re-education camps set up across the country. Many of them were locked up for more than 20 years. Myself, I spent 6 years in hard labor camps throughout 7 communist jails, from Saigon back to very close to the Chinese border. Tens of thousands of them died of hunger, piercingly cold, illness, and exhaustion from hard labor, as they lived and were treated like animals. Their wives and children were evicted out of their home in cities. They had to go to remote area called the New Economic Zone, where they had to build their own houses and produce their own food from scratch, using basic tools like shovel, hoes, hammers, and so on. The truth is, the communist victors just wanted to retaliate and impoverish families of those who had served the former regime. Throughout 4,000 years of history, the Vietnamese people were invaded many times by the Chinese and colonized by the French. No one ever had the idea to leave our beloved country. And yet, when the war ended in April '75 with the victory of the North, millions of people desperately tried to look for ways to escape the new repressive regime with its dictatorship and oppression. 41 years have passed, 1975, 2016. But currently, basic human rights are still being violated. There are no basic freedoms at all. Hundreds of thousands of people have lost their life in search of freedom. Vietnam today is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. It is among the 10 top countries that stifle freedom of press. And understand that some US congressmen have suggested putting Vietnam back on the list of countries of particular concern, CPC, because lack of religious freedom. The Vietnamese people per capita income now is about $2,100 a year. Currently, there is an environmental disaster with thousands of tons of dead fish along the country, 200 miles of coastal area, which put millions of people at risk of hunger. I would like to thank the Colonial Republican Women's Club for giving me the opportunity to tell the truth about communism, and thanks all of you for listening. Thank you very much. God bless America. Next, I would like to introduce my friend, Mr. Trần Tử Thanh. We were classmates more than 60 years ago in Saigon, Vietnam. Please welcome Mr. Trần Tử Thanh.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Thanh Tran. Vietnamese is Trần Thanh. And I was a former captain in the Republic of Vietnam. I was a counterintelligence captain. In 1975, on April 30th, After the communists overran South Vietnam, I was arrested with my father, who was the former Vice Prime Minister of South Vietnam, and also 4 of my siblings. So the whole family were imprisoned by the communists. So I'm glad that I have been invited by all of you, especially John Brown and the ladies there. So I have an opportunity to speak a little bit about my life, my own life. Toward the end of April 1975, at the time the US administration just wanted a swift withdrawal of its troops to close the chapter of the Vietnam War, leaving behind more than 80,000 of their former allies to solely face the enemy backed by the Soviet Union, China, and the then communist military Warsaw Bloc. The result was an extremely high price the South Vietnamese had to pay for this betrayal. The South Vietnamese have lost about 160,000 deaths in concentration camp, including my father, including my 2 cousins who were executed, and then they used the machine to cut their heads. The cousins is the son of my paternal uncle. The communist forces gathered these people, locked them up in hundreds of forced labor concentration camps, what they call sub-camps and prisons and Lao Cai. There were no obvious bloodbath. The world was misled. But behind the heavily guarded fences of the so-called re-education camp, the communists conducted the most vile and demonic mental and physical torture ever designed by mankind. According to the Aurora Foundation and to former inmates, and based on our research, about more than 165,000 died in those camps due to executions, torture, beatings, forced hard labor, diseases, and above all, the most cruel and all means of torture was intended starvation. The communists let us die slowly by starvation. Among the dead were my father, Attorney Tran Văn Chuyên. He was a legislator, a political leader, and chairman of the opposition bloc to President Thieu at the Chamber of Representatives. We, the inmates in those camps, knew that hope of returning home alive was less than slim. To us, physical torture was just small beatings compared to the more hellish torture of being left hungry day in and day out. Hunger tortured us 24 hours a day. Hunger took away all spirit, intellect, and dignity. Rice, yucca roots, yams, and corn blinded us, harassed and tortured us 24 hours a day. They never left us in peace. Hunger turned humans into animals. Hunger left nothing but animalistic instincts. To me, this is the most savage of torture. The torture on both physical and mental capacities of human beings. After months and years of being left hungry, the inmates would eat anything that moved, including those rodents, bugs, worms, snakes, scorpions, snails. As per my personal experience, during the so-called political education session, for refusing to use the degrading, contemptuous word to call the late President Ngô Đình Diệm, I was taken away outside the camp, up a hill, where 4 guards started to savagely beat and kick me. I have no choice to defend myself. One guard turned around his AK-47, struck its butt on my face, causing my left eyelid flash. I still have the scar here. Blood ran all over my face, soaked my shirt. The second harsh strike broke 3 molars on my left jaw. As a result of this beating, I had internal bleeding and cough of blood for 4 months until my communist mates sneaked in a small piece of bear gel to help stop the bleeding. In my second imprisonment, I was released after more than 8 years the first time, and by the intervention of the Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, they released me after more than 8 years. And in my second imprisonment, after a few months, with the order to arrest me for plotting to overthrow the people's government and for founding the National Front for the Salvation of Vietnam, I was taken to the jail compound T82, they call it T82. That's the code for the jail. The guard shackled my right ankle to my right wrist with a very short chain, preventing me from stretching my leg out. Throughout the time the agents interrogated me, they used very keen interrogation torture techniques that left no marks on the body. They beat me up real hard, but avoid my vital organs because they wanted to keep me alive to get more information they needed. One of the agents named, I remember the name, his name is Thanh Sơn, used a solid rubber stick to bludgeon me while 2 other agents held me down to the bench. He hit at my ribs and the palms of my feet. At each beating, my entire body, my brain and internal organs felt like being electrocuted. They also used waterboarding to force me to confess that I was a CIA agent. Many times, 2 interrogators forced my head deep in the water while handcuffing my arms backward. So during the 14 months they held me for interrogation at compound T82 in Saigon, now become Ho Chi Minh City, under the lead of the deputy head of the PA-24, that's the interrogation department. The Lieutenant Colonel Nghiệp, I remember his name. They have 3 times used the US Army military inner phone E8 attached to a crocodile to choke pinch to clamp my inner thigh and partly turn a crank. I fell flat on my back and excuse me, I beg your pardon. I pissed my pants. This type of forced interrogation was the most commonly used by communist interrogators while interrogating political prisoners. And right now they continue to do it, and I have the opportunity to present it to the Congress about torture in communist prison last year with Congressman Christopher Smith, and by the time Mr. Frank Wolf is still the congressman by the time. He's retired now. So occasionally during those sessions they show me a picture of my son. He was only like about 6 years old, trying to break my will and my morale. They have used several other tactics such as forced interrogation, leading interrogation, enticing interrogation to force me to sign the confession of my guilt of plotting to overthrow the people's government so they could execute me. In the end, as I continued to resist their efforts during 14 months of interrogation, the Interior Ministry put me on trial for spreading misinformation against the socialist regime. Throughout the second confinement of 4 years and 6 months with my 2 legs shackled in darkness, in the stench of a musty cell, or I call my east like a coffin, and undergoing a daily beating, torture and beating, I suffer from several disease and which I have a damaged lungs and internal stomach bleeding. The communist interrogators had reduced my body to a mere skeleton of from 75 to 80 pounds. However, they failed to break my spirit. In my lonely cell, I trained myself daily through meditation to build up my mental strength and the will to overcome any hardship. Because of the torture and beating during long interrogation sessions, I feel at times twist and aching in my heart. And convinced these are the effects of being hit so many times in the soles and in the ribs. During the cold month, my feet and legs suffer acute sharp pains as if needles were inserted at my bone marrows. Ladies and gentlemen, as a former prisoner of conscience, I was adopted prisoner of conscience by Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and the International League for Human Rights. And on behalf, especially in the name of the political and religious detainees currently being locked up by the Hanoi administration, and also on behalf of my 92 million fellow Vietnamese people, I eagerly call upon all of you present today in this room to speak out on their behalf whenever you can to the US and international media, to your Congress, to your senators, if you have any chance to lift that. I also urge you to express your concern to the local congressman or the US government, as well as to religious leaders in this country to put continuous pressure on Hanoi, especially President Obama. He will visit Vietnam on the 22nd this week, and I wrote a letter to him on behalf of the prisoner of conscience in Vietnam. So right now there's about a few hundred prisoners of conscience still detained, and they have been tortured day in, day out. And I will show you some of the picture of all the monks, the priests, the ministers, Protestant ministers. They spare no one. These people are being oppressed because they are having a dream. They dream to see a democratic and economically developed Vietnam, a Vietnam fully integrated with the world community. Again, thank you for your passion and your commitment. And I will show you some of the pictures I brought in here, so you have an idea of how the communists torture people in prison. This is the picture of Father Nguyễn Văn Lý. He is a Catholic priest, and right in front of the court. Right in front of all the press, international press too. They didn't allow him to speak. I sent this picture to congressmen and senators, the US congressmen and senators, and also to Dr. Lee Edwards. He's the president or chairman of the Victim Communism Foundation. These are the picture of all the religious leaders. Look at this. This is father, Catholic father. He was beaten. This is the writer. All intellectuals. This is a monk, Buddhist monk. So they have an idea about how the communists, they treat their people. So please speak up on behalf of them. Thank you very much for your patience.
So how is your